video we're going to talk about how the boat's set up. It's really important because you want to be efficient when you're out on the water. You don't need to be looking for gear, you need everything just to hand. So we set up the two today on the boat. Under normal circumstances there'd be a boatman probably in the middle.
Yeah.
So again, about being effective and efficient with your gear was laid out. Scott, do you want to talk through how you set up this?
Yeah, as you can see, I've got my net, my box, my seat, my rod. Everything's nice to hand. You don't want to be looking for stuff all around the boat. You want to have everything within arm's reach. Let's just open the box up here and you can see I've got a few reels, I've got a few spools of line, I've got a priest here if we're taking fish, spare leaders, everything like I said to hand. The rod, when you're not using it, I like to store mine away as such, pointing back away, so you don't want to run the risk of snapping it on the net or your boat seat. And I've got the engine to hand here. We normally set up with ourselves facing down. The engine's always on the left, so it's nice and easy to stay with the left hand. I can see where I'm going, and then I can pull the cord with the right hand as such.
So on my end of the boat, almost the same as Scott. I'm set out boat seat, nice and comfortable, where I have a comfortable day, really comfortable. Life jacket on, important. I've got my glasses for later. Seat box, I use a seat box when you get inclement weather, rain gets into everything, once I lay everything's down. I have my rails all rigged up, whichever one I need to be at. All my flies labelled up where I need to do. Normally for a competition day, the flies which I've determined on practice, I'll have pulled them out into a separate box so I'm not looking to lots of other boxes. Again, nets to hand, bass bag to hand, all ready. What I don't want to be doing is searching for things. I want my fish dispatched in the bass bag, kept cool. Drogue is set up today. We've got very, very little wind. The great thing about using clamps and G-clamps is it gives you the opportunity to create minor adjustment to where your drogue's set up, just to avoid creep, particularly when you want a straight line drifts. So it's really important we can tweak these to suit on the day. Yeah. Scott, might be worthwhile if you just mention how the drogue's set up and how it's attached.
Yeah, well, as Stuart says, you can see here we've got two G-clamps. I like to normally set mine up sort of inside of the boat seats. Different drogues will probably fish different ways, so with the G-clamps we can adjust them to and from and make sure that drift's nice and straight. As Stuart touched on, we're both using long handle landing nets. You can see here I've got like a 6-foot pole, 22-inch mesh head, and it's knotless mesh, which is very important. If you're fishing with 2, 3 or even 4 flies, when you get fish in there, it's very often your leader's all tangled up. So having that knotless mesh eliminates that problem. It means you can spend more time fishing.
Okay, we now set up on the boat. As we covered in the previous video, I think it'd be worthwhile going through some of the essential gadgets and equipment. So Scott, from you, let's see what you've got out there.
Well, I've pulled out a few basic things from my box here, just to give you a quick run through them. First up, I'll start with, you always need a pair of scissors, making leaders. I've also got the competition gauge there, which is always important to have with you, just to double check that the flies are actually legal. If you are using flies with a lot of dubbing in, for example, the dubbing can like pull out and that makes the fly a lot longer than you originally tied it. So we've got those. I've got a priest and a marrow spoon here. The marrow spoon, that's for looking inside the fish's stomach after we've dispatched it, see where it's been eaten. Moving on to reels, we've got a reel here. I like to use the cassette or cartridge style reels, and that's basically, I've got a lot of lines in the box and that just allows me to change them dead quickly, like so. So I'll pull that off there, take that one off, put a new line on, and you can see there within a few seconds I've changed the line. I've got fluorocarbon. I like to have it like a softer and a stiffer type of fluorocarbon from fishing dries and nymphs and lures. Leader sink to help the leader sink under the water for fishing dries, and gink from fishing dry flies like today. Got a lovely day for fishing dries, so at some point I'd imagine I'll be using that. And finally my fly box, so I've got dries, nymphs, some lures, some bright stuff in there as well. I like to have mine all in one box so I know everything is at once. I know some people like to use thin boxes, but it's just how personal preference really.
Just very similar to what Scott set up. In my box I have all my fly boxes set up. Mine's slightly different. I'll have my nymphs in a box, they're all numbered, all clear what they are. I have all my reels set up, so floater to intermediate, slow glass to all my sinking lines. For spools, for me it's almost as quick to change a reel as it is to change a spool, so it's a matter of personal choice. A couple of other essential things, particularly when you're in warm weather. Take some sunblock out as well. Don't forget your glasses. Rods, it's a personal choice and what works for you. I would say the generic boat lock style rod would be a 10-foot 7-weight, but you're quite more than welcome to use a 6-weight or even 9.5 foot, depending on your build, what suits you. So for rods, 10-foot 6 to 7 weight, possibly even down to 9.5 feet if that suits you. Boat seats, there's different types. I'm using the traditional Rutland seat with the backrest. Again, just from a safety point of view, always think of safety. Your life jacket's a life preserver, so the whole idea is to provide you the opportunities that should an incident occur, it's got the appropriate inflation to hopefully protect you if you drop in the water. Boat seats, by the nature, you need to make sure that they're securely fixed, particularly on windy days, lumpy. So boat seat just makes it much more comfortable. You can get away with a thwart board, which is just a simple board across, and there's all sorts of different variations, but you find something that meets your budget and makes you comfortable for your day's fishing. So that, with my rod, my reels, my flies, my leaders and everything, we're about ready to get out on that water, Scott.
Yeah, certainly are.
Let's go for it.